My dudes, Carter, BitsBeTrippin. It has been a full week since we last spoke, and it's been a rough week this last week. We had one of our larger programs that we were working on, projects I should say, kind of get a lot of community blowback, and it essentially ultimately resulted in us having to cancel one of our 10 megawatt builds. Essentially, we followed all the things that we've needed to follow. And I mean, I'm a big advocate of that, of making sure what are the city ordinances, what are the county ordinances, what are the considerations whenever you're building a Bitcoin mine, from sound, from environmental, for all those things. We've prided ourselves on teaching you guys on how to operate like that and make sure people are aware. We've done many city council meetings. We've done many the folks that set the ordinances, and just educate them, just go through, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to mitigate things, to make sure that we can still coexist and operate in a particular area. And this is something that data centers have to do a lot. They're a little more intensive when it comes to like water and those kind of requirements. Bitcoin mining is pretty straightforward. You feed it power, you keep it cool, you keep it, maintenance, you make sure that, fans are working and operating, and you just genuinely try to be a good steward to the community. I mean, that's the entire point of like Bitcoin mining and being a participant in a community, leveling out power rates, keeping them stable. It's a different animal than like a data center. And a lot of the people that show data centers going in where Bitcoin mines are and stuff like that, it's just a different thing, right? They may use 100 megawatts of power, but their power profile is different. They don't have curtailment, which means like Bitcoin mine is a for-profit business. It's also holding the security of the network, but at the end of the day, we're not a necessity. Bitcoin mining is not a necessity right now. It's not considered critical infrastructure yet. So by that, you have to be good stewards of the community, right? You have to make sure that it's so loud that it's annoying people. And there's been instances that have been used against us and other entities where you got Bitcoin miners that may not have the understanding of the community. They've done it in quiet, and then they went and built things, and it's created like an environmental issue from sound and all those kind of things. And you see some of these, Vice style, presentations of like, this is terrible, and setting in somebody's house with like 100 decibels, that kind of stuff that, and it hurts everybody in the ecosystem, because it shows like where folks may have not done enough due diligence to understand what the impact would be. And then it reflects on our kind of project, which, this was going to be a hydro 10 megawatt site. It was going to be quiet. We were using acoustic shielding around the perimeter. And, we were taking in consideration of all those things, right? We're not trying to affect anybody. We're just trying to build a business in a local area, right? And unfortunately, it just got a little out of hand when it comes to just community just saying they don't want it, essentially, especially the local people around a neighborhood that would have been within, a half a mile, actually about a quarter mile away, about 1,300 feet. I think the start of a particular neighborhood, actually a little further than that. And our nearest houses being the closest house would have been around 300 and some change from this particular site. And, that's why we were going to use acoustic shielding on top of only having a footprint of, 50 plus decibels, like 50 to 60 decibels at 50 feet away is what our sound footprint would have been. But there was other considerations. People were concerned that it was going to lower their housing rates and all that kind of stuff. And again, mitigations in place to ensure like their values are, held, and any kind of delta that they would have experienced if they would have sold their homes, would have been taken care of in writing in a contract, right? But it's just, again, it's just the fervor that can happen in a in a community that just is, they're all just sharing like bad instances. And here's one thing I've learned in this process, the takeaway, and, maybe it's for a podcast or something, we could really deep dive into it. But everybody's armed with a superpower these days when it comes to like Chat GPT. And people have to understand on how those LLMs were created and where they came from, and the fact that they are bias based, which means if you give an LLM the counterpoints to give me the bad things about something, it's going to provide you a strong bias-based response that is going to find cited sources of where things have went wrong in any particular situation. It was designed to do that. It's designed to be able to fit a bit bias and provide you a response. So what I'm telling you is that no matter what you have a position on, your few minutes of research, and now powered with a superpower such as an AI, it'll provide you all the relevant curated content that will provide you a good dispute on anything that somebody's trying to do. And it's unfortunate use of it. It's good on a debate standpoint, and I look back at the history of where it came from, and that give people good debate points. But like, if this is going to be the future we're going to be in, like, any community can probably counter literally anything from chicken farms to anything. You can find something wrong with something and anything. And then if you get into a dispute where it's a community saying, well, I need to be involved in all these decisions, you should be able to go up to your county or your local city and have an ordinance change, have a specific zoning requirement that you're going to require. Because at the end of the day, no business means, people can't build businesses, right? And people can't invest in a particular area. And then everybody's going to be left sitting around going, why isn't there anything here? Why isn't there jobs here? Why aren't there high-tech jobs here? Well, you can't put a data center, you can't put a Bitcoin mine somewhere. You're not going to have high-tech jobs. Rural communities are going to just, wonder where all the jobs are at. And it's, we'll just have to find communities that are willing to work with, us. And, just in this particular area in St. Louis, a data center out in St. Charles was denied. Or the people, pulled the request because there was just so much outlash on the risk associated with data centers, from like potential, you have to use diesel fluid, you have to do all these things with a data center. But again, this is why ordinances and why zoning requirements are in place. Like, people establish, like, if this is going to happen, here's your rules of doing business, and hold places accountable with it, right? Like, if we've had to make changes to our sites before, or we've had to put like the acoustic shielding up, or as something else got annexed in, you have to make adjustment. It's a fluid situation, right? So I don't know. It's an unfortunate thing. You spend a lot of time and money. BBT teams had quite a bit of investment in this, and it's gone in an instant. And it's unfortunate. I feel bad for our clients. I feel bad for all the folks that we've, would have employed in this. Local businesses, millions of dollars spent in the area. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in excise tax that would have been for the area. And it is gone. Like, this area is not going to get that now. So we have to find another area for it. And it's a tough one, my dudes. This is part of this business. It's not a poor me story. It is what it is. We were doing everything within the requirements of permits, and the county really likes us and wants to see more of it. It's just what it is. I've learned a pretty, an additional lesson that just, we got to get out there, do more community outreach. And, this is the second event we've had in this area where it's just, they're just not ready for it, my dudes. They're not willing to listen. I couldn't get people to the table to talk. A few people met with us, a few neighbors and stuff met with us, and we explained it and what it is. And I mean, at the end of the day, it just comes back to they want to keep their rural community rural. And they don't want to hear anything. They don't want to, it's rational. I mean, some of the things, my dudes, that were posted were just like, holy crap, man. Like, people don't obviously know us. We've done a ton for this community, like a ton. And it, it's just what it is. Like, you get one instance that people will rip into you about it. It's unfortunate. It's just the way the human condition is right now, especially everybody feels empowered, socially, and a viral council culture type of ideology is what's kind of happened, right? Is you don't agree with it, or you don't have enough, you have 10 minutes of research on the line, it can sway your opinion of something and of people that are participating in the community, building businesses, employing people, and it breaks it. And it's not going to stop us from building out other locations. I mean, we have active engagements right now in Wyoming and in Texas, with EarthPot South. Like, we're going to still continue to pursue those efforts in those communities that want to bring more jobs in their area. And, let's do it responsibly. I would say any Bitcoin miner out there, like, engage with your community, educate them. The Bitcoin miners out there that are just, that have created kind of these sound issues and not looking at that as an element. I'm telling you, boys, you haven't done any of us a favor on that. Like, that's unfortunate. You should look to try to mitigate that much better, and just be considerate of it. Be considerate of people. We thought we were being considerate of people by choosing the path that we were doing from a sound acoustic protection. And I mean, that stuff's not cheap. I mean, like, we're talking like 165 foot by 80 foot site, 10 megawatts, high density. It would have been 4 large, like, high powered containers. And, hydro being very low sound output, which is a significantly more expensive solution, right? You're talking with machines and hydro machines and all this on 10 megawatts, you're talking potentially $20 million solution. And, these air cool solutions are $9 million. So you're talking almost spending double for the whole operation to be considerate for the area that's around there, right? And it doesn't, nobody will hear it, right? So it's like, and nobody will hear the fact that that's the considerations that we understood to make sure that it wasn't affecting people, But it is what it is. It just tells me that I need to do more education out there and provide more data points for people. If you're out there and you see this video, and you're struggling, or you've had issues, or you have other things to share, maybe we can set up something like another podcast or something with everybody, and just explore it a little further. But just this is why we've been kind of quiet this week. I mean, we've just been trying to work through picking up the pieces of what this means from a loss of project. I had to tell a couple people I can't hire them now because of it. So it's affected us, it sucks. We had a few people that we've been talking to about getting them moved up here. And it's a terrible call you have to make. It's like, hey, there's some people that just weren't wanting to hear it and wanting to sit down and understand, and thought they needed to be part of this decision making, even though it didn't affect them directly. It looks like it would have affected them directly because it was semi-close, but like, they didn't want to have a conversation. And again, like, this is an approach strategy, my dudes. Like, if you do everything by committee, what you're going to find is it's a very polarizing subject. I mean, some people don't agree with crypto. They don't even care about the fact of what this is going to provide, and they just don't like crypto. So you're just going to have that you have to deal with and reconcile. And it's like, I'm never going to make everybody happy. And this is like any kind of other politics type of thing. But like, I'm just trying to build a business, my dudes. And we're trying to be considerate. And we've hired people, and they're high paying jobs. They're good jobs. They're tax paying. They would have brought, in this particular area, there's excise taxes set up in place. So, and this type of site would generate about $12,700 in tax revenue for the county that we're in per month. So, you're talking a couple $100,000 in excise taxes and property taxes and all that. And, you know, it's not based on gross receipts or any of that. It's just straight up out of the power cost. So this is kind of a long video. I just wanted to give you guys some perspective of what we're working through. And, you know, just how we're going to try to move on and, you know, see if we can land these folks. I mean, you know, somewhere. I hate leaving somebody out to dry on this, man. But like, this grew too quick, too fast. We just didn't want to risk, you know, like is the juice worth the squeeze? Do we want to fight? If people don't want it in the community, I'm not going to fight to not put it in their community. It's just like, I think that's just that sets a bad precedence for the industry. I'm not going to force it down anybody's throat. If they're so adamant about not having it, then we'll move it. You know, it's just, it makes us have to replan on our approach strategy on, you know, where these things are going to be at, even though they're going to be hydro and quiet and stuff, and not, you know, affect people like they think it will because they see other things, or the AI is telling them, you know, these other instances of bad participants. It is what it is. But again, this video has ran long enough, my dudes. You can post comments if you guys have had some kind of issues. This is, you know, we've had 2 back-to-backs like this on this particular area, and I think we're getting the messaging. So that's where we're at, my dudes. I'll hopefully get back to normal videos and kind of just keep the education going on, guys. I mean, again, we're not showing you guys anything. We're just taking you guys through our path, right? All right, my dudes. I'll see you guys on the next one.